Welcome back. Today we're going to learn about the particle 에서. Now we've already talked about the particle 에, which is used for marking a location. This can be the location that someone is going to, or the location that someone or something is. So here are two examples. 저는 학교에 갈 거예요. I will go to school. Or 책은 제 방에 있어요. The book is in my room. However, to mark the location where something happens, use the particle 에서. 에서 marks the location where an action happens, and it can translate to at or in. 우리 아들은 도서관에서 공부해요. My son studies at the library. 진영 씨는 병원에서 일해요. 진영 works at the hospital. 저는 한국에서 살고 싶어요. I want to live in Korea. However, the particle 에서 can also mean from when used with a location. Here are two examples of that. 빌리 씨는 학교에서 나갔어요. Billy went outside from school. 빌리 씨는 이제 집에서 올 거예요. Billy will come from home now. This particle 에서 can also be combined with the past tense form of the verb 오다, to come, to mean literally that you came from a location. And this is how you can say the city or the state or the country where you're from. For example, 저는 한국에서 왔어요. I am from Korea. Or 저는 미국에서 왔어요. I am from America. So let's do a quick practice before we continue. Try to answer this question. 어디서 왔어요? Where are you from? I've also provided a few additional places in the vocabulary list. Note that 어디서 is just shortened from 어디에서, and this will happen more often than it doesn't. The same applies to 여기에서 becoming 여기서, as well as 거기서 and 저기서. So we've talked a bit about how to make questions and sentences, but what if we want to make a very short sentence and we still want to be polite, such as whenever we want to just say a word, like a noun, an adverb, or even a particle, without any verb at the end? Well, you can do that with this form, 이요. And what it is it's not the verb 이다, to be, but it's a separate form that can be attached onto the end of a word and make it still polite. And to use it, you'll attach 이요 after a word that ends with a consonant, or attach 요 after a word that ends with a vowel. You'll also attach 요 if the word ends with the consonant 릴. For example, to answer the question, 어디서 왔어요? Well, if you didn't want to say I'm from America, you just wanted to say America, you would reply 미국이요. If you were to have just replied to that sentence, 어디서 왔어요, by saying 미국, it could be rude depending on who you're talking with. So, to make sure that your sentence is polite, even if it doesn't have a verb, make sure to attach 이요 or 요. Here are two more examples. 저는요? How about me? Or literally, as for me? 언제요? 어디요? 누가요? 정말요? When? Where? Who? Really? So now let's do a conversation practice between two people, 미니 and 여울. First, 미니 says, 여울 씨는 어디서 왔어요? Where are you from, 여울? 저는 한국에서 왔어요. I am from Korea. 미니 씨는요? How about you, 미니? Or as for you, 미니? 저는 일본에서 왔어요. I'm from Japan. 그리고 일본에서 살아요. And I live in Japan. 한국어를 어디서 배웠어요? Where did you learn Korean at? 한국에서 공부했어요. I studied in Korea. 영어도 배웠어요. I also learned English. 정말요? Really? 영어도요? English too? 네, 하지만 영어는 미국에서 공부했어요. Yes, but as for English, I studied that in America.
여울 씨는 어디서 왔어요? 저는 한국에서 왔어요. 미니 씨는요? 저는 일본에서 왔어요. 그리고 일본에서 살아요. 한국어를 어디서 배웠어요? 한국에서 공부했어요. 영어도 배웠어요. 정말요? 영어도요? 네. 하지만 영어는 미국에서 공부했어요.
But before we go, a quick review. The particle a, as we learned, is used to mark the location that someone is going or the location that someone or something is. And the particle 에서 is used to show where something or where some action happens. But there is an exception to that. The verb 살다, meaning to live, can actually be used with either 에 or with 에서. Both are correct. So you can have either of these two sentences. 저는 미국에 살아요. 저는 미국에서 살아요. I live in America. So in this lesson, we did a review of using the particle 에, as well as how to use the particle 에서 to mean both where something happens or where something's from. So practice everything in this lesson, and I'll see you guys again next time. 그럼 다음에 또 봐.